Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK journey video. So I've been testing Frieren along with Himmel as well in PvP a fair bit against some top meta defenses, and overall Frieren, they're doing pretty well. Now one thing which is kind of a problem when you're using both Frieren and Himmel in the same team is the other three heroes you all want to have of the same faction, especially when you're talking about Supreme Arena or seasonal content, in order to enable the Phantomal. You guys have seen basically some of the teams that we have managed to beat with a team like this, a lot of meta PvP heroes, and it's doing pretty well. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys, we'll just go ahead and pick one of these defenses, and I'm going to show you the team lineup basically that I have been running with and explain it a bit. So the thing about, Frieren and Himmel, number one, I only want to run Himmel if I'm going to get the heroic party buff and basically buff up Frieren and whatever other allies more. And the Skyclops Phantomal, or Phantomals in general, they contribute because the Skyclops is a support class, and so even though there's no support actually locked into the team, Himmel is still getting his buff because Skyclops is going to be a support. And then you have, Frieren, you have Gunnar protecting Frieren. Now you might be thinking, looking at this team, if you didn't know Frieren's skills, isn't Gunnar gonna die quickly? Like, you don't even have Alna protecting Gunnar. Like, isn't this a crazy team comp? Well, the reason Gunnar doesn't die so quickly is because Frieren's Mythic Plus provides really good survivability to the frontmost ally. When a battle starts, Frieren casts defensive magic on herself and a frontmost ally. When either takes damage exceeding 10% of their initial maximum health, the excess damage is reduced by 75% and it goes up to by 85%. So this is actually a really good skill for improving the survivability of your frontmost ally, and it actually allows Gunnar to be almost invincible, at least for the first 10 to 15 seconds. Without needing to protect him with an Alna or something. So that's actually a really interesting usage of Frieren to basically make your frontline hero even more difficult to take down. It's a really, especially when there's shielding involved as well, I feel like the shielding kind of synergizes really well with this skill. Anyway, the problem I'm just seeing a lot with Himmel is that he just runs into the fight and dies, and he always does that. He never survives, and I'm not gonna bother protecting with an Alna or something, because first of all, then I wouldn't even get the hero party buffs. We need to have them like this to get that, but also just because he doesn't do enough. So I'm just basically using for a heroic party buff, and then also to ramp up the Frieren faster, because I think 5 seconds into the match she ramps up if Himmel is in the party. As you see here, after fighting alongside Himmel for 5 seconds, Frieren immediately amplifies her magic power. So that's basically what we're trying to use Himmel for, just that fast ramp of Frieren, and we don't care if he dies, but we have to fight a 4v5. That is awkward, that is problematic, honestly, but yeah. Okay, so that's basically what we're running here. Alna protecting the Frieren just because she's strong, and Gunnar buffing Frieren. Now, the other problem is that for long, drawn-out fights, Frieren jumps off of Gunnar's tile. I really don't like this. The fact that she jumps all over the map, you might think, oh, isn't that useful or a cool tech for PvP? It actually is just kind of always counterproductive, because whether you're using Hugin to buff her, Gunnar to buff her, she just runs away from the buff tile. And I don't like that. That's one thing that is kind of a problem. But anyway, let's watch this battle in action. You guys can see what basically happens. So Himmel's going to survive long enough, especially with cooler buffs and everything, then he dashes in, and now Frieren is ramped up, she's casting her ultimate, and she just usually blows up the enemy team. Especially also because if you're running cooler in the team, you're providing that explosive debuff on the enemies, allowing to hit even harder, and she absolutely basically shreds them. Now, the thing about this damage in general is, the question is really, what about Marcel? Marcel in a similar type comp with Gunnar, Alna support. Isn't Marcel also going to do kind of the same thing? Now, one thing that I can really say in Frieren's case is this defensive magic skill, because this allows you to run Gunnar frontline and unprotected and still have good survivability on him. I think that's one really interesting thing about Frieren. Apart from that, she also has, vitality debuffs, she has damage, and she ramps up, and she has other benefits from that. So yeah, in terms of just a raw damage nuker, potentially Marcel is better. However, in terms of a lot of things which are being brought to the table, I really think Frieren is really interesting. Now, one problem is that if you don't protect, for example, by an Alna or something, and the opponent is running an Alna. I actually want to show you an example of this. So I did some attacks against Pac-Man because he has a more free-to-play defense, but still, it has Alna on it. Like, it is a Wilder plus Alna squad. The problem is, when there's Alna Frieren or Alna any hypercarry on the team, and unless you're using Alna of your own, you're basically at a disadvantage. And the problem with that is then you can't use like other factions. Like if, for example, you want to run Himmel and Frieren, and you want to run like Theodore, which normally Theodore Frieren has great synergy, allowing her to cast ultimate faster, you know, the defense shred, you can even run like Celeste, and then you have this whole heroic party going on here. And this is overall, all things considered, a very strong team. But the problem is if you're running into an Alna, unless you use Alna of your own protecting your Frieren, you're just bound to lose. And so that's, well, I guess that's just a problem with Alna, not necessarily Frieren, but basically what I'm saying is Frieren and Himmel are not good enough to beat an Alna hypercarry team. And I'm just going to demonstrate that right now. Like if we're, for example, like even if we go Lily May to try and block the Celeste, and we go for like a comp like this, which, this is a strong team, definitely. The problem is we're like, I don't even know. Can we go from like how can we try to survive long enough? I don't exactly know, because like they're just gonna nuke me. But let's say we even go for Earthshell spell or something like that. So now Theodore is going to have the Mythic Plus skill of Frieren, making him much more tanky, much more difficult to take down. Frieren herself is also going to have it. We have the Lily Maid to interrupt the Celeste. So like we have, like overall, our team is countering their team, but we don't have Alna. And like the Alna Frieren difference is big. So my Frieren's going off. She's killing everything, but their Alna Frieren or Alna Hypercarry, whoever it is going to survive. And now their Frieren is going to come back with a full damage. And it is, well, is it going to, are we actually going to survive with this artifact? Like, look at this. See, Frieren and Theodore, they take the damage burst very well because of the Mythic Plus skill of Frieren. Okay, I think we actually won. Yeah, okay, so I guess with the artifact, or no, we didn't win yet, because they're going for another Frieren ultimate. We do win. Okay, so the Earthshell spell was actually strong enough to even beat Alna Hypercarry, Alna Frieren Hypercarry. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm honestly pretty happy with that. So anyway, yeah, you guys seeing definitely while there's a great faction to pair with Frieren, is just that you're then gonna miss out on Alna. You can't fit in like Alna and Wilders and Himmel. They're too many team slots. So this has always been the problem with dimensional faction heroes. They're not contributing anything to the synergy, to the actual Phantomal, and so. Yeah, that is their limitation. And there's no news of Dimensional Phantom coming anytime soon either. Okay. So if I want to show you some other team comps, like for example, let's try some different, I'm going to try, like on these top tier teams, I have to run a Celestial Hypogean team, there's no question about it. Because otherwise I cannot compete with them. Like, you know, they're running Dunlinger, Frieren and stuff. Like if I'm not running Celestial Hypogean, it's gonna be a problem. Okay guys, so I wanted to try a different team comp. Again, we have a top tier meta team like Dunlinger, Frieren, and there is the you know, Himmel, Aliseth, and everything. Okay, so what I'm planning is, this is a Dunlinger, so we're gonna go for a longer fight because we're not gonna be able to cast ultimate immediately. I'm thinking still to run Alna, but having Alna protect the Gunner in this case, because here we have the twins, and the twins are going to be acting as a support for Himmel, so he's still going to be able to buff our, you know, the key heroes here, and Sky calls Phantom in the back. So I want to go ahead and try this team and see how this is going to work. I know the twins are going to die, but at least they do provide this Stellar Bond buff to Frieren, and that is going to give her some benefit. Gunner is still up front, and he's well protected with the Alna, and as long as, you know, Gunner is surviving, then Frieren is also going to be invincible. So like now we don't have Alna on the Frieren, but it's kind of because we don't need it. Now is a problem. Frieren goes off the tile, she's going to deal her damage, and hopefully it's enough to actually give us the advantage. Okay, it does look like it's enough. But yeah, the problem is if you're going to go for Alna protecting like someone other than Frieren, after Frieren casts her ultimate, she's going to reposition. She's going to be then unprotected. She's not going to be invincible anymore because she's not going to be behind Gunner. So this comp still worked and it was still effective. But basically it just does show you that, you know, if you're relying on Gunner for the protection, then you need Frieren's initial ultimate to actually burst and get the kills through. So let's go ahead and take a look at another team we have here. Because yeah, twins are going to be a support everyone has. You can always run that in a comp. But what I maybe am a little bit interested in seeing is just, I think I think the thing is, you have to run Himmel with Frieren, because otherwise Frieren ramps up too slowly. You want to have Frieren's getting this damage boost, and that is only going to ramp up fast if you have Himmel on the team. Frieren definitely is good enough in PvP, and she does have a unique role, and but you will want to run her along with Himmel. And ideally, you want to have those Gunner and Alna. We did show you a good team with Theodore, Wilder's squad with Himmel and Frieren, and definitely that can work. Definitely is a strong team, but it can be shut down, you know, by enemy Dunlingers, even that team has Lily May problems. So, like, ideally, you would want to have some hero to take a Lily May. But basically, yeah, Frieren has different factions which will work with her. I definitely think you should always try to run her with Himmel. Otherwise, you are leaving out her damage potential on the table. Because when you look at the skill of Frieren, 60% damage boost, right? 60% damage boost when she ramps up. Okay, but it is going to take 15 seconds into the battle, which is going to be like, usually battles are decided by then, but it's only 5 seconds if she is with Himmel, and that is why you kind of have to run Himmel if you want to use it in PvP. And then she also gets, you know, permanent 30% attack boost, all like, basically Himmel takes her onto another level. And I think it would just not make sense for you to run her alone. Even though you can work, it's just you're leaving a lot of her damage potential out. Because that damage boost, as far as how it's written, it should be applying to her ultimate. Because true damage, regular damage per second, all of these are amplified by damage boosts. Damage amplification. There's only HP loss which might not be experiencing a boost, but the other damage definitely should be. So that is the thing. Himmel should be run with Frieren, I think, and that means then the other 3 heroes should all be of the same faction, so you can get a Phantomal. The ideal comp is Alna, Gunner. Those are probably the best 2 heroes for her, but of course, so many comps will want those heroes, and that is the other trouble with it. The problem is, if you don't use them, I mean, even Dunlinger Gunner, or even Dunlinger alone can probably work fairly well with Frieren for that protection. But yeah, she does really well in protecting the frontmost ally as well. I think this is actually the really interesting skill, and if you guys pay close attention to the fights we did with Gunner up front and Frieren on the team, you will really notice that Gunner, he takes the damage way better than if you didn't have some support like that. And that is the interesting part of Frieren. So I think overall, I definitely would have to say, she is probably, like, if we're rating heroes on, like, you know, from C all the way up to S tier, I would say Frieren's probably an A+. Quite not S tier, because I really think only heroes like Alna, maybe Gunner, the heroes which are just, you know, the top of the top. But I definitely think she's A+ and approaching on that S tier. But you guys can let me know your thoughts about Frieren in the comment section down below. Are there any other comps you like to run her with? Definitely, she can work with other factions. She can work with any faction. Well, let's not say Maulers. Well, actually, you know, Maulers would allow her to take a Lily. The Mauler Phantom could take a Lily May interruption. But really, I'm leaning more towards Wilders. Definitely Celestial Hypogeans, potentially even Lightbearers, because, you know, you have Hugin's support, you have other good heroes, Rowan, Siren, and things like that. But yeah, I think that she is best in Celestial Hypogean and probably second best in Wilders, if I would have to say. And I think she should be run with Himmel, pretty much at all times, just to ramp her up. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for watching. And if you're thinking about making a purchase in AFK Journey, please use my affiliate link for the official Farlight store. This is the best way you can support me and also gain 5% bonus dragon crystals on your purchase. My affiliate link is in the description of this video and a pinned comment. And you can actually bookmark this link in your browser. And whenever you're planning to make a purchase, just return to the bookmark link and make your purchase. It will support me and be greatly appreciated. So thanks for watching. I'll hopefully see you in the next video. And until then, everyone, peace out for now.